New York, and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
At the federal level today, we've talked to Governor Phil Murphy this week. We talked to Mayor Bill de Blasio this week. And now we have Senator Cory Booker representing the great state of New Jersey. What up, Senator? How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be on with you all, and thank you guys in this crisis for getting a lot of good information out there and encouraging folks to do the right thing.
So first and foremost, I wanted to talk to you about the stimulus package. A lot of our listeners are, they work on contracts. They're bartenders, waitresses, DJs, college students who work hourly wages, even people who are day laborers, truck drivers, and things like that. I saw one of your proposals for a stimulus package, a way to get some money to the people. Where are things at the federal level with approving this?
Well, we've got a proposal from the Republicans late last night, and we're about to go into a day-long negotiations to try to make sure that more things are in this for the people. And again, we saw in 2008, 2009, a lot of focus on big banks, big corporations. We in this have to get support directly to folks who have mortgage payments, college loan payments, small businesses, to make sure the first responders or hospital systems are included. So it's going to be a deep, tough negotiations today to try to make sure that this is done right. And what you said, a lot of folks who are listening to me right now are facing an economy that has a tremendous amount of challenges as people are losing work, having reduced hours, being forced to be laid off. So one of the parts of my proposal is to say make sure that we get cash payments to Americans, $2,000 to begin with to everybody, adults and children, and then every quarter, should this economy stay down, we put more money and resources in. My plan would give us through the end of the year up to $18,000 for a family of four. That kind of money in people's pockets would help to not only help the family, but stimulate the economy as well.
Now, that would be every proposal that I saw. This sounded like it applied to people who made less than, some proposals were less than $130,000, but most were for families that made less than $100,000.
Yeah, we don't want to put money in the pockets of folks who are doing all right, who are well off. But for folks who are struggling, who are middle class workers, low income workers, that's the folks that we want to target. So there's definitely going to be an income cap on it. But by the way, this is an addition to, not as a substitute to, but in addition to everything from an increase in unemployment insurance benefits, making sure paid family leave is universal, paid family and sick leave. So we want to make sure that there's a lot of ways for folks to get help out there so that we don't see people falling through the cracks during what could be a protracted economic downturn.
Senator, what kind of fear do you have about a potential depression moving forward? I know you don't want to freak people out, and we don't want to go too far, but it just seems like this is a really scary circumstance moving forward financially for this country.
Yeah, we have two crises going on that should sober everyone, and they're interrelated. One is this health crisis, and the two is the related economic crisis. The health crisis, we are still on the upward slope of this crisis. You now have so many executives, from governors to mayors, staring at this tidal wave coming, because if people do not change their actions and behaviors, this virus will spread at a rate that when that wave hits us, it'll overwhelm our hospital systems and our ability to meet the demand for everything from ventilators to even things like masks. And so the urgency today and every day of this crisis for this next week is to bend that curve. Now, the other crisis, what's related to that, is how long will this wave endure? In other words, how long will it be necessary for people to be at home? And that, again, we don't know. There are a lot of predictions that this could come in waves, that it could start disappearing in the hot summer, but then come back again in the fall. And so the economic crisis we're facing, we just don't know what it's going to look like months from now, and have to be prepared for a massive recession in our country with very high unemployment rates.
So I guess the next thing we got to get to is on a federal level, I saw a headline that said the president and Congress have approved or asked, I'm not quite sure how this works, for mortgage companies to suspend mortgages. True or false?
There is a direct ask being made to major mortgage companies to suspend payments during the immediacy of this crisis. There are many companies voluntarily saying we will not evict for the next 90 days. But I want to pass legislation that says that you cannot, that gives forbearance to everybody uniformly. So there's definitely asks going out. There are definitely good actors out there right now. But I believe in the same way that there were bailouts in 08, 09, I was a mayor back then, for big banks and corporations, this is the time, this crisis, I'm down here in the Senate talking to folks about we should not be seeing people go into foreclosure or student loan payments and the like. We should have a uniform legislation to protect people during this financial crisis.
So we also saw yesterday, walk with me here, Senator. Trump downplayed the coronavirus in January and February, yes?
Yes.
How real was it for you and other constituents watching him do that while everyone else knew how real it was? What were the conversations?
Look, this president has put us at risk. He has been profoundly irresponsible. He failed to do the things that the Obama administration did to prepare for pandemics. In fact, he fired people whose jobs it was to prepare for pandemics like this. He took us from a proactive posture to putting us in a more vulnerable reactive posture. And even when he had warnings about what was happening, he tried to downplay it, deny it, and say that it was a Democratic hoax, conspiracy that was happening. So it left us behind in terms of our preparedness. It left us more vulnerable and exposed, and his administration in recent weeks has been trying to play catch-up. Now, this is not a time for politics. This is a time to all of us to be pulling together. But even as recently as yesterday, him saying that this was the governors on the governors, and not doing things like saying, I'm going to declare like a Marshall Plan for our hospitals. I'm going to be using my executive authority to activate companies to get the things we need to be produced for those hospitals. This has been a sorely lacking leadership on the presidential level, and unfortunately, as a result, our country is in a deeper, greater crisis than it would have been if we had a president that was proactive, ready, planning, and focused.
Well, the reason I bring it up is not because of politics. It's more about learning. I think the population of America is so privileged and so accustomed to things working and them feeling like government officials have things under control. And here the nation allowed this idiot to become president, and we've seen many stupid things, straight dumb, since he's been president. But here we are with actual loss of life because of a virus that we could have been in front of. And look, now's the time for solutions, but I also believe it's a time for us to learn, hopefully once and for all, that when we elect people for a job, we understand that it is not a celebrity contest or a team sport. This is about hiring people who can manage things like a global pandemic intellectually, listen to science, and be proactive.
You are spot on. This is a president who was not prepared for this crisis. He did not do the things that every executive is supposed to do. We are now seeing the evidence that he had people in place to run these possible scenarios, and he did not heed even the urgent warnings he had from people within his own administration. And so, yeah, this is malpractice. This is wrong. He put America in crisis. It's going to cost us clearly financially and potentially costing us lives.
Well, and to take it a step further, and I don't know if you're prepared to go down this path.
Here we go.
Now we're learning that senators sold stocks in February after the warnings got more serious on the February 27th, the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee was selling stock, I think as early as February 13th, and told his constituents in North Carolina who were his donors, there's recorded audio of him talking about how serious this is, and at the same time, the president is calling it a hoax. Like the president was running cover so that CEOs could step down before the market crash and get their money, so that people in power with the information could get their money.
Is that possible, Senator? Could something like that devious have been going on?
Yeah, of course. We come on. We've seen this happen in the past where Congress people with insider information did actions to profit themselves at the expense of their sworn duty to be loyal to the American people. And so, again, I don't have all the facts on this, but when you have Tucker Carlson, a Fox News host, calling for the resignation of a Republican senator, that's something you rarely see.
Yeah.
So, again, I got a lot of priorities today that I got to work on. I have not read this. There has not been investigations. But this story, it sounds despicable, and I think the public demand should know the truth of what happened here.
Senator, any concerns with the elections around the corner? You know, I felt like when the president set the timeline of August, which seemed to be a much longer timeline than any of us had heard from experts, I started immediately thinking he's going to stretch this in a way where he could argue that the election shouldn't happen. Do you guys, does the Democratic Party have concerns about that? And what do you do to ensure that the elections take place as normal, as planned?
Well, first of all, that's one of the things that is not in this bill, which we should be getting more resources to make sure we are protecting free and fair and timely elections. So that's something we talked about as Democrats last night when this bill came out. We cannot allow any talk about suspending November's elections, pushing November elections back. We had, in 1864, in the middle of a Civil War crisis, we had elections in this country. So there should be no delaying of these elections.
Fam, if we had elections during the Civil War, we're about to have elections.
Right.
I don't want to hear it.
Yes. Right. Amen. And so right now we need to prepare to have them and do what's necessary to keep people safe when they're voting. That is a sacrosanct element, a sacred element of this democracy. We cannot let any fools say that we should somehow delay this. That is ridiculous. I will fight against that.
Now, how are you guys dealing with social distancing up there on Capitol Hill? Because
right.
I'm sure. Are you guys doing things via teleconference, or are you guys still walking into that to the House or to the Senate floor together?
Well, to the credit of the Senate leaders, they're staggering votes in a way, more time to go down and voting so that we don't all congregate on the Senate floor like you might have seen on C-SPAN or pictures of the Senate floor. So there's a lot of actions being taken, and that's why I want to give a lot of tribute to the people who are coming into the Senate to do the jobs of cleaning and sanitizing, people rubbing, wiping elevators clean. There are first responders here. There are folks who are showing up to make this place run that never get attention, never get the thanks that they deserve. And so I just want to say all around America right now, there are people that can't shelter, that have to go to work to try to keep the government running, to try to keep hospitals running, to try to be the respond there. There's still going to be fires. There's still going to be needs for police, and they're coming to the job and getting things done. All those folks should be celebrated right now.
Senator, although the majority of people in New Jersey and New York are staying home, do you see New York or New Jersey going to a 24-hour shutdown like San Francisco is going? If we don't,
California
and California, if we refuse to completely stay at home to protect others, do you see that happening?
Yeah, I see it's possible. Look, my biggest worry right now, I have a lot of worries, and the economy is definitely one, people's economic well-being. But the big wave that's hitting us, everybody should understand that we are staring out into the distance and seeing in the next week or so, if we don't bend this curve of infections, we are going to be hit by a demands on our hospital systems that we cannot sustain. Why is California moving like that? It's because they're taking every proactive measure they can to stop what they believe could happen very easily in about a week, which is people dying because they don't have enough ventilators, people in crisis because they don't have enough beds in their ICUs. So I just cannot impress upon folks who are listening to my voice enough. You may not be getting very sick, but you will be one of those links in a chain that leads to others getting sick and our hospital systems being overrun. And God forbid you're at home climbing up on a shelf and you fall off something and you get hurt for another reason and need to go to the hospital and go to an overwhelmed hospital and can't go there. So we have demands on our hospitals from babies being born to people who might have diabetes and have insulin shock. And to have the hospitals overrun with coronavirus because we didn't do the right thing will put lives at risk. So I just ask everybody out there to take dramatic measures in your life to socially distance, to stay home if you can, washing your hands with discipline and rigor.
That is Senator Cory Booker with the clearest phone line in the history of interviews that we've done with him. How do we applaud this man right here, man? You know what I mean? Like this guy right here. We got him on a landline.
This is a man who steps up, Ebro. When times are at their toughest, he steps up the most.
That's
the
right.
best phone line ever in the midst of a crisis like this.
And video. Wow.
God, I wish you were still running for president.
Y'all, I love you. I'm going to come there. I love you. On the other end of this crisis, I look forward to giving y'all some hugs. Thank you for doing what you do every day, keeping folks informed, engaged, and connected. That more than ever, we got to be there for each other. Even if we can't physically be there for each other, spiritually, we got to do it, and you guys are helping with that, and I'm grateful.
Thank you, Cory Booker. And
Thank
one
you,
last
Senator.
thing before you go. Is it time for Bernie Sanders to step aside?
Bernie's going to have to make that decision himself. I think Joe Biden is clearly going to be our nominee. I believe, and I've made this clear, we got to rally around him so we can get Donald Trump out of that office. He is a danger to this nation and to this
Talk
world.
about it.
There it is. Cory Booker, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Everybody stay safe,
Thank you.
stay healthy, stay safe up there, and smack anybody that gets out of line. It's about that time to start punching people in the face, man.
You're always trying to smack
Love y'all.
someone.
Love y'all.
Later.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Senator.
Peace.